We are live on your DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. Our headlines this hour: 556 COVID cases recorded among school children since they reopened.
When school reopened in the middle of January, we have recorded 556 cases across the region from 139 schools.
1 out of every 3 students experiment with drugs in Ghana. This was contained in research by the Consultative Committee to Combat the Drug Menace in Schools.
They know of it because they use them primarily for pain, but this time they are using it as a recreational drug, added to energy rush, added to something else to elicit euphoric reactions. That's what we are talking about.
Mixed reactions at the University of Professional Studies Accra, as the school insists students who dress inappropriately shall be sacked from class.
I also heard maybe you are supposed to wear officials Mondays and then whenever we have presentations.
And in business, coffee farmers challenged President Akufo-Addo to make good on his promise to revamp the industry. We're live on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. Welcome. In our first story, teachers of Ahia Basic School in the Ashanti region have appealed for help to construct a new classroom block to replace their dilapidated school structure. Portions of the upper primary school block have collapsed with deep cracks posing a threat to users. Nana Aljima has more.
Esha, a farming community in the Atrimang-Wabieja South municipality of Ashanti region, has this basic school serving pupils in the community. The structure housing pupils in the upper primary was built by the community years ago. It is currently in a deplorable state. Teachers say they are disturbed by reptiles and heavy rains.
When it's raining, you have to stop the class and then you let the children find a place to find comfort.
Our lives are in danger because of the issue of the snakes entering the roof. Because of its nature, it poses stress to teachers and then the pupils inside. So students normally lose concentration when you are teaching. Despite
letters to the local assembly and assurances to turn attention to the school, the situation persists. Lawrence Asamoah is head teacher of the school.
If I have a wish, I would have said that we should have closed that class down so that they will stay at home, but I don't have a wish. So we used to learn under the trees here. So I'll be very happy if people will come to our aid, so that they will come and build a new building for us, because this building is, I can say that it is a death trap.
Students and teachers of Amadum Adam Kwame in the same district are facing similar challenges. They study under uncompleted school block with no windows and dust floors. Students have to walk in with their own tables and chairs. Raymond Anyingba is the head teacher.
The windows are not fixed, the doors are not fixed, the plastering are not even done. The normal desk is being used by only with the Form 3, but the Form 1 and 2 are not having the normal desk. They are using their stool they use in the house to eat on. That's what they are using in the classrooms.
Meanwhile, the circuit supervisor for Menshia in the Atrimang-Wabieja South municipality, Edward Ejechum, says a list of schools has been sent to authorities for the needed attention.
Last week, municipal director directed all of us, the CS, to report on dilapidated buildings and buildings that have not been completed. So we have made a report on that, and I know the government definitely will do something about it.
The increase in drug abuse among students is because drug dealers have made their way onto senior and junior high school campuses in Ghana. This was revealed by a member of the Consultative Committee to Combat the Drug Menace in Schools, Dr. Olivia Boateng. The committee, commissioned by President Akufo-Addo in September 2019, has found that 1 out of every 3 students experiments with drugs. Let's get into some details of this study. 176 basic and senior high schools across the country were surveyed for this. 59.9% of the boys tend to use cigarettes more. According to the findings, 54.1% of the boys use cannabis, 36% of the boys use alcohol. Now, of course, in the study, they were able to pinpoint to what boys abuse and what girls abuse. In the case of girls, 72.7% use painkiller relievers, and 34.3% use shisha, which is a kind of tobacco. 32.1% of the girls use alcohol. Now, Dr. Olivia Boateng is a member of the committee, and she was speaking on News Desk.
The safe, legitimate supply chain had been compromised. So, in the recommendations, we say that availability and accessibility is common for these students on campus. Yes, they are apart from the itinerant peddlers, there's the chain of safe, legitimate supply chain had been compromised in the schools. Females have menstrual pain or menstrual cramps to deal with, and for these, some pain medications can alleviate this discomfort. So rightfully, they may have been given these pain relievers just to take them when they experience such discomfort. But because for some of the opioids, like the tramadol, the morphines, have a tendency of being addicted to. Once you take it and it's not on a prescription basis and you routinely take it, you get addicted to these. And then because for some reason, you remember we had a surge on tramadol use and tramadol abuse. Because some of them know that when you add it to alcohol and things, you could elicit euphoric behavior. They may have had it because they had the pain, but they keep them or they source for them for these other recreational purposes. And so that's how come for the girls, it's mainly pain relievers that they were hooked on and were abused, and the boys, it had to be the hard drugs. Male who found themselves routinely getting these medicines, they know of it because they use them primarily for pain. But this time, they are using it as a recreational drug, added to energy rush, added to something else to elicit euphoric reactions. That's what we are talking about when we say that that high percentage were abusing it. They were not using it for the indication of pain. They were using it for drug abuse, for the recreation. We have come out with recommendations that we have taken to the minister, and I'm sure the president who constituted this committee will look at it and then aggressively tackle what it is so they can lay their fears to rest. What we are saying is, yes, there's an issue in our schools, and I'm not saying there are drug barrels in the schools. I said there's a legitimate supply chain that has been compromised, and that's the regulators would take a second look at it. So some of the recommendations that we came up with are social support systems. So parents who are hearing this and are worried should take a keen interest in their wards and help the schools. Churches should come on board, religious bodies should come on board, everybody else to come on board, so that social settings will take a critical look at this.
You're live on Joy News today. Now, the minority in Parliament is demanding the termination of the extension of the AXA contract, arguing it has been done without parliamentary approval. In a press briefing in Parliament, Member of Parliament for Gushegu Abu Jinapo said the extension, pardon me, Mr. Jinapo is Member of Parliament for Damongo. He said this is an illegality and also amounts to double standards by government.
If you read the letter from Mr. Boachajaku, he claims that the company breached their side of the contractual obligation. It was not because we had excess capacity. The reason was that the people didn't have a license, and so he was terminating. The court has ruled against him. Also, we've been informed that government has extended the AXA agreement That agreement has expired, and yet government has proceeded to extend that agreement even without parliamentary approval. And we wish to serve notice that that extension is illegal and cannot stand. You cannot say that you have so much power, you have excess capacity, and yet when these IPPs, their contracts have expired, instead of you allowing them to walk away, you are deciding to extend it. That is double standard, and we think that that cannot hold. So clearly, this issue of capacity doesn't come in, because the reason for termination was not based on capacity, but was based on what the minister understood to be a breach, which has turned out to be false. So certainly, the state is supposed to pay 164 million, and that was avoidable. Why was that decision taken? Did we go through the right processes? Did we exhaust all other options? So certainly that will come to play, and we'll investigate that as well.
556 cases have so far been recorded among school children between January and now. This figure is from 139 schools in 14 regions which have tested positive for COVID-19. Dr. Patrick Kumar-Boaje, Director General of the Ghana Health Service, revealed this during the public engagement on Ghana's COVID-19 vaccine rollout.
So far, we have, since school reopened in the middle of January, we have recorded 556 cases across the region from 139 schools. And so far, there are about 2 regions that has not reported any case in their school. That is Northeast and Savannah. They've not been any reported case of positivity from the schools so far. A move towards vaccination. We have implemented public health measures across the country since the detection of the 2 cases. And I mentioned enhanced tracing, tracking, risk communication activities. We put in place restrictions to ban large gatherings, etc. It is time to focus on our individual bodies, which is the vaccine comes in, to train and prepare our bodies' natural defenses. That's the immune system to recognize and fight off the virus. And I think that's going to be another phase. That's where we really are.
You're live on Joy News today. Now, at that program, Dr. Amponsa Chano, who is head of the Ghana Health Services immunization program, informed the public that all the operations element of giving out 20 million doses of this vaccine would cost a total of some $50 million. He said that it's only the operational cost because the cost of the vaccine itself depends on the supplier. Now, the FDA has approved AstraZeneca and Sputnik V vaccines, and there are a number of others which are, are being studied by the FDA. Let's go live to Manuel Kranting now, who's standing by the Alisa Hotel where this news conference took place. Manuel, what else did what else came up at the news conference?
Yeah, so Daniel, the public engagement in fact just ended, and we're told that about 350,000 doses of the vaccines are expected to be delivered in Ghana by the end of February 2021. The inoculation generally is expected to start in March 2020, just about 2021, just about 2 weeks from now. And you remember that there's been an issue about the cost of the vaccines. Earlier, there were concerns about why Ghana was purchasing the vaccines at $10. Well, this afternoon is just emerging that we are spending between $2.6 and $3 on the operational cost of, as it were, administering a vaccine or 2 doses of the vaccine, and then also the cost of the vaccine itself in terms of what is contained in it is between $7 and $10. We are told that that is the average amount of money that we are using, given the prices within the global vaccine market. Again, we're told that there's going to be a systematic rollout of the vaccines, giving priority to high-risk persons. For example, health officials, also senior government officials, talking about the members of the executive, members of the legislature, and then also the judiciary. But generally, there have been concerns about how safe the vaccines themselves are, and given the fact that there have been some conspiracy theories moving around, essentially about the vaccines being targeted at Africans for what purposes of killing and so on and so forth. These are all some of misconceptions that we've been told are not true. But let me bring in the director of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Kumabwaje, who's just joining me here. Doc, grateful that you could speak to us. So just give us a brief summary of what has been happening here. There have been concerns about the safety of the vaccines and so on.
Well, thank you. We are here to launch the vaccine, and what we sought to do is clearly to show you our history of how vaccination has helped not only Ghana but the rest of the world, the preparation that we have made since November to get to where we are now, and also share people how we intend to deploy the vaccination. So that's exactly, this is the very first major launch of the program. There will be a series subsequently to educate Ghanaians and advise people on when and how they can access their vaccination. Come when it starts.
We are told that the AstraZeneca vaccine doesn't really work for the South African variant. We are told it's 70% efficacious compared to other vaccines. What is the reaction given the fact that we have the other strains within the community in Ghana?
Our dominant strain in Ghana is the UK strain, for which the AstraZeneca works well. Even for where in countries, in places where the South African one, the issue is that it still prevents severe disease. And so it's not that it's not useful at all. The WHO has come out that it's still good enough even for that strain. But luckily for us, our dominant strain is the UK strain, for which the AstraZeneca and the other vaccines we believe will be working. And as we say, we will continue doing surveillance as we go on. When we find anything, we'll change course.
Does this mean that we are targeting? We know that there's a third dose that's being developed by AstraZeneca. Does it mean that we are targeting that one also?
We will work with anything that will make our vaccination more safer and effective.
Finally, talk to me about the cost, Doc. We're told that in some other countries they are doing per dose at $5. Our average is between $7 and $10. That's a cause for concern. You don't think so?
Let me say the vaccine ranges from $4 to $40. So it depends on the mix you have. That is what will be depending on the cost. We are using the COVAX average cost of about $7 to do our projection. But if you have to, now you are not able to, cannot guarantee that you can depend on one vaccine and get enough. Because you're going to have a mixture, you have to vary the prices. And so it will be difficult even for us to say that we're going to have to spend so much on a vaccine. It depends on the mix of vaccines we have. And so anybody who puts out any statement that somebody is using this figure against that, if you tell which vaccine was used and to which community was it, what approach was used. If you are doing static cases, if you are vaccinating people who are walking to the facility to work, it's cheaper than if you are doing a campaign mode, where you are carrying the vaccine to people in their farms, in their schools, etc. So that will depend how much the cost.
But it's a possibility it may come down, given the fact that you are exploring other vaccines.
Yes, the objective is to get it as efficient as possible. And so we are looking at all the best. But of course, the most important thing is saving the Ghanaian population from COVID.
Grateful, sir. And that's the Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Kumabwaje, just speaking to me about the event that happened here and the entire campaign which has been launched. We're told that the Ghana Health Service will be leveraging upon existing structures which have been used in other inoculation exercises for measles, polio, and so on and so forth, just being upgraded now because the target this time around is for older people. And Daniel is instructive to note that the vaccines that will be deployed in March in Ghana are not efficacious, have not been tested within children below the ages of 15, and so it's going to be started from second cycle institutions and tertiary institutions, while we await further data on the efficacy and safety on use for children under the ages of 16 and 15. And so generally, that's been the conversation here at the Alisa Hotel on Ghana's plans and preparation for the COVID-19 vaccination rollout program.
Thank you very much, Manuel Kranting, for bringing us those details and that interview with the Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Kuma Abuaje. We're going to move to other stories, and there have been mixed reactions at the University of Professional Studies, Accra, as the school insists that students who dress inappropriately shall be sacked from class. The school, which purely runs professional programs, has for years required that students wear official clothing to class, a directive which is in line with its mandate of preparing students for the job market. Even though the students admit that the regulation is premised on a useful intent, they believe sacking students who wear sleeveless dresses and other unprescribed clothing only creates more problems. My colleague Manuel Kranting was on the campus earlier today to speak to some of them.
It's quite, pertinent to note that indeed this directive is actually not a new directive. It's embedded in the handbook of the university, which is giving out to every student who is, offered admission to the university. Well, most of them do not read it, but ignorance of the law, as they say, is not an excuse, and that is seeming to be what is biting them now. And so we're just trying to speak to a few of the students to pick their impressions about that directive, whether or not it's even archaic, as it were, given the fact that in 21st century, millennials are trying to dress to the trend. Is this something that they want to stick to? Let me speak to you. Grateful that you could speak to us this morning. What course are you reading here?
PR. Public relations.
Public relations, great. You've seen that directive. You're not supposed to be wearing certain types of, dresses. When you look at the handbook and the directives therein, how does it make you feel as a student of the university?
Oh, as for me, I'm very happy about the directive they brought about, because already before coming to the school, we have an idea of not putting on any type of dresses, especially dresses which do not have, let me say, shirt hands. So it's not good to be putting on sleeveless. So as for me, I think it's the best directive brought on board, because it shouldn't affect the students in any way, because they have a perspective about the school they chose before they came in. So it shouldn't be, it's because the students don't take the directive that they already had before coming to the school into consideration. That's why they pinpointed it again to give.
I'll come to ask if it is fair that, for instance, I've paid school fees and I'm coming to learn, and it's not that I came to the class without my books, pens, and so on to learn, but because I'm not dressed in a certain way, even though I've paid the fees, you sacked me. I want to pick your thoughts on that. But let me speak to you also briefly. What's your own impression? She said that, well, it's good. I mean, giving the motive and, if you like, the principle of the school, it's a professional school training you for the market. Do you think that's the way to go?
For me, in a way, it's fair, in a way, it's not fair. Or it's fair in a sense that as the school is already called the professional school, so as they are training you for the professional world, they're supposed to dress professionally. But then some dresses are also very revealing. Some are okay, like the off-shoulder like this, some are okay. But some too, they reveal too much, which will cause, things to happen.
And that's the question I'm going to ask. Which will cause what things to happen? What will happen?
Maybe like sexual harassment from lecturers and stuff, excuse me. Yeah, and then from fellow students too. Yes.
So for instance, what's your name though? Princess. So just because one Kujo or one Kwame somewhere cannot, discipline himself, Princess should not be allowed to dress the way she wants to dress into the classroom?
Well, yes.
That's what you think. Well, let me speak to you also. You've seen, in fact, there are portions that speak about religious dressing and makes room for the hijab and so on and so forth. When you look at all those things, but they seem to be empowering for you, no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they are empowering, because we came to learn. So with the learning, the dressing too has to be part of the learning. So you have to dress very decent to look presentable for the market and everything. So.
But how useful would that be to anybody? Because not everybody who comes to the university essentially wants to work in a bank or wants to be an accountant and so on and so forth. Must you tie me down to the plans, the general plans that you have for all the students, even if I don't want to be a part of it?
No, but from the first thing, like with your dressing talks about everything. Your dressing is the first impression everyone sees you that would see. So with the dressing, you have to dress decent so that when the person sees you, even though you're not going to any banking and anything aspect, but with your dressing, the person will be like, oh, the person is a good person. And so.
Great. So the reason you are seeing most of them in this is that today is a Friday, and even today being a Friday, I've seen some of the students who had early classes dressed in white and black, white long sleeves and black trousers, moved to their various classrooms. But let me speak to this gentleman here. He's the only man in the conversation. Well, it's all gone down, and for the ladies, they don't seem to have so much of a problem with it. But for the boys, I mean, you want to wear your summer shirts, you want to wear your tattered jeans and so on. The university doesn't like that.
But before you were coming, maybe you had an idea that you're not supposed to wear anything like that. Okay. So I don't think there's a problem with it.
So where is your long sleeve and your tie?
But this also okay, like it's presentable. Yeah.
So this is also allowed.
And then I also heard maybe you're supposed to wear officials Mondays and then whenever we have presentations. Okay. That's what I know. So the other days you can dress
casually, but not necessarily revealing.
Yes.
But I mean, the critical question that I was going to ask her, which I did eventually, she says, well, yes, just because Kwame or Kojo cannot keep themselves disciplined, must we force the ladies not to wear the stuff that they want? For instance, a day like today that is really sunny, the atmosphere is really hot. I want to wear sleeveless and feel comfortable. The school says no. And the reason is that there may be a cause for sexual harassment.
Well, I don't think that's the reason why they asked us not to wear anything like that. Because when you look at University of Ghana, they wear anything they want, tattered and then sleeveless shirts to class. You don't hear any rape cases there or anything. So I don't think that's why they asked us to wear those kind of.
You don't think that it will affect them at all?
No.
Great. So and you made a point. You made a point earlier about it being fair because it's in the handbook, and so if you have accepted admission, then you should definitely abide by it. But the question is, I'm going to class. I've paid for the fees. Why should you sack me because of a certain dress?
As for me, I think it's the best directive ever. Okay. So. No matter whether you like it or you don't like it, you are coming to school and you are trained as a professional student. So at least you have to dress casually or professionally. You don't just have to dress anyhow.
But is it fair to those who get sacked?
No, as in to the extent of getting sacked. Maybe they must be given maybe penalties, such as paying fines, yes. Because even if you sack them, they may choose to even change. But even if they are allowed to pay penalties, maybe I think it will even help the school in many ways. Yes.
It will help the school in many ways. Well, round up thoughts from you, and then we'll hand over back to them in the studio. This should not be reviewed. You said it's fair and not fair. Do you think that it should be reviewed at least to some extent?
Yes, it should be.
How should it be reviewed?
With the dressing. Yes. Okay, then they should make it like Abi is already Mondays is official. So the other days you can wear anything casually, but not too revealing. Yes.
How revealing is revealing?
Like wearing a skimpy dress when you're walking, then it will be coming up, and then we have like very down off shoulders, like showing almost the breast and then the other parts. Yes.
Okay. And how revealing is revealing? A simple question.
How revealing? It's very revealing when at least when they sit and almost every part of their thighs is showing it. Most part of their body is showing. So it's very revealing, and it's sometimes luring the guys and sometimes in the lectures too, because someone will wear a very short dress and wants to sit in front. And the lecturer is teaching, so like the person isn't feeling comfortable.
It's distracting, eh? And so to avoid all the troubles, let everybody dress according to the code of the university.